You just got paid, but what if I told you that's not really your money? We're going to keep talking about getting a hold of your finances today. So what would I mean by that it's not your money? This is an important concept. I'm going to give you about 20 seconds to think about it, and I'll be right back. When I first started thinking about what sort of topics we would be talking about in this series, I didn't realize how many of these would turn out to revolve around money. Apparently money's pretty important in one's life. I spent a lot of years just kind of being very passive about money and not really knowing where every dollar was coming from and where every dollar was going, and it caused a lot of trouble. So I sort of had a trial by fire. I learned a lot of these things through the problems that I caused myself. And it got to the point where it was just ridiculous, and it was not working, and it was misery. And I just finally said, you know what? I've got to get a hold of this. And I'm not a guy I'm not wired that way. Like, I don't really, thinking about my bank account makes me nervous, or it used to before I implemented this system in my life that I'm going to show you how to do. You must get a hold of your finances. You must learn where this money's coming from and exactly where it's going to, and to be able to plan for what's coming. You must do that. It doesn't matter what your personality type is, what your background is. It doesn't matter what you studied in school. All God's children have to learn this, have to implement this. You can't let yourself off the hook, because it will just bring suffering to you and your family. So what do you think I meant when I said you get a paycheck and you've got to stop thinking about that as your money? Well, it's actually very simple. When you get a paycheck, you've got to realize that you've already promised a lot of that money to other people. For instance, if you have an apartment, well, you've got a rent payment coming up. If you pay for utilities, you've got that payment coming up, and you've already agreed that you're going to give them this money. So you need to plan for it. It doesn't all go in your spending category. A lot of it is already spoken for. So that's where budgets come in. Budgets are a way to matrix your money and cut it up into little pieces and send it where it needs to go before you accidentally put too much of it in one category and not enough in another category. Now, this budget system that I'm going to show you is the one that I personally use. It's very simple. It's very easy, but it's very powerful. And I originally started off looking for budget programs that were out there, like on the internet. And a lot of them are free and a lot of them are really good, except for one fatal flaw. And that is that they're based on monthly expenditures instead of your weekly pay. Now, most people get paid weekly. I get paid weekly. I've been getting paid weekly for years. Yes, my bills come in monthly, most of them. Some of them come in twice a year. Some of them come in once a year. My property tax comes in once a year. Some of my insurance bills come in twice a year. Some of my bills come in monthly. So what I found for me is the most simple and powerful is to budget my money per paycheck. So that's every week. So you don't have to do it every week. If you get paid every 2 weeks or every month or twice a month, it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is the important thing that I discovered for me that made this all work is that I based the budget on the frequency of my payment, not the frequency of my bills. So what that means in effect is I converted all my bills, no matter what they were, weekly, monthly, bi-yearly, or yearly, I converted them all to weekly bills because I get paid weekly. So every week I take my check and I carve it up and I put some of it toward the phone bill, some of it toward the insurance bill, some of it toward the property tax, etc., and so on. Even though these bills come in at different times and at different frequencies, it doesn't matter because every single check that I get, I take the same amount out for telephone bill. I take the same amount out for car insurance. I've got that number that I just calculated based on what I've been spending, and it all comes out the same every week. Now, some of this might sound familiar. Some of you might be saying, oh, that's the envelope system. And it is. That's all it is. So for those of you who don't know, Back in the old days, even in my younger days, I tried this. You would get paid in cash, or you would just convert your check into all cash, and you would have a box, and it would have a number of envelopes in it. Let's say you had 8 or 10. You had an envelope for every expense that you had. So you would have one that you would write phone bill on that envelope, and you would have another one, and it would say rent, and so on. So every category of expense that you had, you'd have an envelope for it. So every time you got paid, you put however many dollars it was going to take, $25 into this envelope, $30 into this envelope, $100 into this one, so that when those bills came around, you just pull the envelope out and magically all the money was already there to pay the bill. My system is the exact same thing, except I do it all online. And it may already start to sound complicated, and let me assure you that it's not. You have to do a little bit of work up front in the converting your bills into weekly bills. And all I mean by that is, if I get a bill, let's say the one that I get once a year, my property tax bill. Let's say that, I don't even know what it is. Let's say it's $500. All I mean by this is that I know that once a year I've got a $500 bill. So what I do is I take 500 and I divide it by the number of weeks in the year, which is 52. Then whatever that number is, that's the amount of money that comes out of each and every paycheck that I get. Every week I pay a small amount of money toward my property tax. And I don't give it to anybody. I put it in a separate account labeled property tax. Now, when this bill rolls around in February or whenever it comes, I get the bill in the mail, and then I just simply go online to that account that I've been trickling this money into all year, and magically the money's just sitting there waiting to go to that bill. It's absolutely painless. And once you get your system set up, which may take you 20 or 30 minutes, if you've got a complicated setup, it might take you that long. It's really extremely easy. But once you get it set up, it is so incredibly fast. I'd say it takes me 90 seconds, honestly, a minute and a half to do each week. Very quick, very easy. And then when any bill comes around, I've magically got the money sitting there waiting to go to it. Now, here's where your results may vary. I only budget for things that I know, expenses that I know are coming for sure. Like I've got a category for tires. I know I'm going to have to buy tires, so I have an account, and it's labeled tires. I think I put $20 a week out of my check into that account. That covers my car and my wife's car. I've got another category for car insurance. I've got another category for the phone bill. I used to have a category for my mortgage until I paid my mortgage off, then that went away. I've got an account for my tithe, 10%. So you get the picture. I've got about 7 or 8 categories that I put my money into. So when those bills come in, that money is already there. Now, the money that's over and above what goes into these categories, I'll put some in my checking account for spending for the week and kind of put myself on a limit there. And then what's left over from that goes into savings. So yeah, I may have some expenses come in. Let's say I broke my leg or whatever and had to go to the emergency room and pay the deductible to get pins in my leg. That would be an unforeseen expense, one that I'm not budgeting for. Hopefully I've built up enough savings that I can cover those sort of things. And that's kind of the idea of all this. But I'll tell you one thing that never happens to me anymore. I never get a bill and have a heart attack anymore because the money's just there. It's just there. Even if I forget about the bill and the bill comes like, oh, I got to pay that bill, the money's there because I fund it each week. Now, another thing that's going to be specific to you is your bank. I discovered the Federal Credit Union, and there's one near you, most likely. First of all, federal credit unions have a little different set of rules than banks do, and so you'll find that they're a little more lenient about things. The customer service, in my experience, has been tremendous, and their online banking is exactly what I need. So if you hate your bank, and you probably do, look into a federal credit union. Now, I'm going to do a whole other video showing you exactly the process that I go through to do my budget each week. I'm going to show you how I set it up to begin with. I'm going to show you my online banking screen and show you how I transfer money and how powerful and wonderful this is and how much suffering this system has relieved me from in my life. I hope you found this helpful. I pray for your success. We'll see you on the next time.